Welcome back to Buck Fu Pie's Szechwan beef. This is for health and healing. It's a very, very old recipe, close to Grandmaster Doo Wai's heart. So this is done with eye fillet of beef, also done with sherry, soya, bok choy, kumara, ginger, and I add other elements such as chicken stock to this dish. It's done with brown rice, milled brown rice, which is much better for you than eating white rice. White rice is not good for diabetes if you eat too much of that. So brown rice is a much better option for that. Okay, so today we're going to start off by prepping our eye fillet of beef. We're going to be slicing this through the center, and then we're going to gently just slice little slithers. So then the cooking time of this doesn't take so long then. Otherwise, if it's a big chunk of steak, what's going to happen is it's going to take a lot longer to steam, and then you're going to get very hungry. So you got to make sure that you slice this nice and thin, equal, so the cooking time cooks equally, right? Once I've done that, I've got my Szechwan pepper that I've milled up. Obviously, our Kung Fu is from the Szechwan province, okay, on the Ome Mountains. So there's a lot of wild herbs, awesome vegetables. You know, you can substitute the sweet potato, the kumara for Chinese mountain yam, okay? You don't want to have too much of that. Depending on what you like, you can substitute some of these items. But I like to keep it traditional, as Grandmaster Doo Wai has thought of these recipes, and they're absolutely beautiful. So I add the Szechwan pepper to this, and I marinate this with all the Szechwan pepper. I add a little tiny bit of sea salt, okay, a volcanic, even a black volcanic sea salt is really good because it's got great minerals, good properties in there. And then I add my soya sauce and my sherry. The best outcome for this recipe at home would be to marinate it for at least 30 minutes beforehand to really get that flavor penetrated into that. All right, so with this recipe, it's very, very simple. What I like to do is turn our wok on now on a nice high heat, and we're going to be steaming this and caring for it. So what I've done with the kumara is I lightly just simmered this lightly in small little squares. So it wouldn't take so long to cook this, but you can actually cook it from raw. So you can chuck this in small little centimeter dices with the skin on because it's full of fiber. And then you can steam it in a boiler like this. Even in a bamboo steamer is a good idea. You can create a lid for the top of this, even if it's foil, if you haven't got a bamboo steamer. So I tend to I blanched my kumara. Plus what I've done is I've pre-blanched my brown rice. So the brown rice takes 25 minutes to cook. I've pre-blanched that so we're ready to go, especially in this Western crazy world these days. We haven't got much time. So we're running around with our families. We're trying to do our kung fu or whatever hobbies we want to do, and we haven't got much time, so we want a good, quick, awesome meal. So I've also got our bok choy here, our baby bok choy. I sliced this in quarters like this, and then I set this aside, and I've got the wok now gently heated up, and our bok choy prepped, ready to go. I add my coconut oil, okay, into my wok. I then chuck in my sweet potato in there. And I've also got some beautiful ginger, fresh ginger. I add my beef to that so it starts to steam and cook right through. So it smells beautiful with all these awesome marinade in there. And what I tend to do with this dish is I grate some fresh ginger, about 1 teaspoon of freshly grated ginger. Make sure, and by grating the ginger, the flavor disperses through the whole dish as opposed to having chunks of ginger through that. If people aren't really, fond of eating too much ginger, okay? It's a nice warming herb, spice. I add my bok choy in there. And what I want to do then is add my chicken stock. And now I want to just cook this down so it's nice and tender We can then add a lid to the top of this, so we create a steam, and then we're ready to go to the next process of this. So we'll cook that now for the next, say, I'd say 12 to 15 minutes until the eye fillet of beef is tender. Okay, not overcooked. Okay, you want to keep that beautiful softness within the meat, but make sure you stirring it constantly, so you're layering the flavors, and it's a very, very nice dish. Now our Szechwan beef is cooked. We can then layer this into our pan with our rice. It's really, really nice. Grandmaster Doo Wai used to love having this at, Chinese buffets and, gatherings that he would go to. It was one of his favorite dishes that Mai Shi Gung, Dennis Wood, would tell me, and Jungshi Thomas Rizzo. So it's the properties that are in this Szechwan and with the Chinese sherry is actually very, very beautiful. So we want to garnish that with a beautiful purple shiso and cilantro, which is coriander, which has its very own private, personal properties as well. So this is it, Szechwan beef. I hope you enjoyed that recipe. Sifu Dane, the Kung Fu chef from Australia.